on this very spot, we had the groundbreaking for this building, and many of you were there at that time. And now today we're coming together once again, and I want to thank all of you for being here, part of this dedication of this extraordinary building, which is named the Bill Conway Center. The opening of the Conway Center now becomes the largest of 41 facilities that we have developed in the city. As with all of our facilities, the Conway Center will be a beacon of light, restoring hope and dignity for hundreds of women, men, and children in need of affordable housing in this building, as well as job training, counseling, and healthcare in our nation's capital here. So we welcome all of you, especially Joanne and Bill Conway and the family, for whom this building is named, and their family and friends who are with us today and share in this wonderful occasion.
You know, we're told by Pope Francis that we are supposed to bear witness to all of the call of the gospel to care for those in need. He says we're supposed to do it with our words, we're supposed to do it with our heart, and we're supposed to do it with the works of our hands. And isn't that what this building and all of the programs that are operative in this building represent? And it's a partnership. It's a partnership that involves the city, represented here today. It's a partnership with private individuals and their philanthropy, represented here today. It's a partnership with church and with the whole idea of ministering to those who do have needs.
We created this building out of our unwavering commitment to ending poverty and homelessness in our city. The Conway Center will provide affordable housing for 30 families and 152 single adults. It will also provide job training for 300 annually and health care for 10,000 men, women, and children that will be provided by Unity Healthcare. Not only will the residents and the students at Conway Center benefit from these co-located services, but the community will also have access to these services. The Conway Center's journey began in 2012 when we were seeking a larger space for our Center for Employment Training. We had been graduating about 100 people a year. With the Conway Center, we will now be able to provide training and graduate 300 adult students each year. The Center for Employment Training will prepare them to secure a living wage jobs with benefits and full-time jobs.
Thank you, Father John. Good morning and welcome to the Center for Employment Training. We have a saying here that once CET, always CET. And I think that speaks to what we're trying to achieve at the Center for Employment Training. We are a licensed post-secondary institution, and we are particularly focused on 2 career pathways you'll see as you tour. You are sitting in our healthcare program area, and you'll see our building maintenance program area. Just a few things that I wanted to share with everybody about the model and the way that we do what we do is that we really believe that moving folks into a career pathway, or as the mayor likes to say, a pathway to the middle class, is more than just technical skill training. It's really creating an environment of hope, support, dignity, love, if you will, to help folks who have not had a really successful experience either through education or employment either find themselves and find their future and find their own professional identity, or to get back to where they were before. And that's what we're about here. And so we merge together integrated education and training. We do soft skills, career development. We help folks to get a job, but we don't stop there. Thanks to the support of both Bill and Joanne Conway, we've been able to extend that support for a full year post-employment, 365 days, to celebrate how successful our graduates have been. And so I thank you. On May 7th, we opened with 75 remarkable students, some of who are here today. Since then, we've had almost 40 individuals walk in without us actually asking them to keep that training going, and we anticipate that in a year we're going to have over 300.
You know, the day hopefully will come when we won't need, you know, facilities like this, because we have reached the point where people are able to stand on their own 2 feet, and that the help that they got will be at the beginning, will be because they've gotten the right education, they've gotten the right opportunities to get a job, and they've gotten the right opportunities to be able to have a home that they can call absolutely their own.
Here's what we know in the District of Columbia. There's not a single person who wants to find themselves on hard times. But what we know for sure is that when we appropriately wrap around services, when we provide every single thing that a resident needs to be successful, not only will they jump on it and take advantage, but they will put themselves on the pathway to the middle class. This building is the perfect demonstration of that fact. Housing, employment, medical, behavioral health, and dental services all in one building, removing every single barrier an individual may face as they work to pursue their dream and become exactly who they are supposed to be. These things are only possible when people like Father John and so others might eat in his team, when funders like Bill Conway and all of the folks who came together to fund this project, including the government, come together to get that done. We in the city could not be more honored to partner with those who are doing what we know is the Lord's work, helping to create pathways to get people exactly where they need to be. So on behalf of the mayor this morning, who I know will be here a little later, I want to tell you just how honored we are to be here to cut a ribbon for an organization that is changing lives every single day. Thank you.
I want to say also that really this is an example of housing and services in a way that I think is truly what our future affordable housing across the district needs to be, and it is serving the income levels. We have to create a mix of housing across our city, affordable housing, but we have to make sure that we are taking care of our most vulnerable first, and I think that that is exactly what this does.
To be able to have those integrated services here, all that you've heard Father John and Emily and others talk about, the housing, the wonderful training, part of that will even be in terms of training those that are going into medical professions, a certified program, national program that's available here for people. The addiction services, the mental health services, all to have that under one roof where it can be integrated together with healthcare. It really is a model. It's a model I think that will be is being looked at and will be followed and really bring a great deal of hope and healing to many, many people. So we're just grateful for the gift that has come and the gift to this community, and Unity is very grateful to be a part of it. Thank you.
Today we honor longtime friends Joanne and Bill Conway for providing the critical support, encouraging others by their example and their matching gifts to do the same. The result is that we are more than 75% away from realizing our initial goal of producing 1,000 units of housing. In addition, the Conways have given us the encouragement, and the confidence, and the support that we needed to our work to expand this Center for Employment Training. So Bill Conway is going to say a few words.
He's standing there, so I won't talk too long. Thank you, Father John, and thank you everybody who's been here. Councilman Gray, Cardinal Wuerl, Dr. Janelle, Emily, people who work here, people who built the building, and people who supported it and support some every day. A lot of times everybody says, well, the Conways did this, and the Conways did that, and the Conways did this, and the Conways did that. I want you to know there were more than 1,000 people who gave money to build this building. And all of them need to be recognized, not just the Conways. Thank you. I'd like to tell you briefly about how I became involved with SUM. At some point, 25 or 30 years ago, the poor and the homeless became visible to me. Of course, I always knew they were there, but I chose not to see them. It's easier when they're invisible. You don't have to deal with them, you don't have to talk with them, you don't have to help them. But once they became visible, I found that I couldn't just walk by. And here's an example. About this time, I was walking up 10th Street from my office, and a man came walking down the street, and he was wearing a plastic bag. And it wasn't a raincoat, it was his shirt. And everybody else was just walking by this guy, and they didn't see him. I felt like I was the only one who saw this man. So I helped him. I told him to sit down at an outdoor restaurant. I ran to my office, and I got him a T-shirt. And when I came back, he was still sitting there at the restaurant, and I gave him the T-shirt, and he was happy to have it. And he was visible to me. Over time, I started to interact with the people on the street. At first, I was afraid. Would they hurt me? Did they just want money for booze or some other addiction? Would they give me a disease? And over time, I became less afraid. I talked to them. They all had a name. That's one thing I'd recommend if you ever see people on the street. You want to ask, what's their name? They all have a name. They're all somebody. A few of my friends on the street, actually, had mentioned some. And in addition, I'd heard about the organization and the various churches that make a meal for hundreds of people each day. My wife sent our first contribution to some 20 years ago. And there was one condition, which was that it was anonymous. And here we are today. I have another kind of personal reason for my support. The older I get, the more certain I am that I will be judged someday, as we all will be. And frankly, I've begun to judge myself. What could I have done better? When should I have been the person to make the difference? This leads me to think about the importance of one person, Dr. Janelle, for example. But let me give you 4 examples that have kind of been in the media to just think about. One was a woman by the name of Sylvia Bloom. She died a few weeks ago at the age of 95. She was a secretary in a law firm. Her husband was a firefighter and a school teacher. She took the subway to work every day. She saved her money, lived frugally for many years in a rent-controlled apartment, invested some of the money she'd made, and at her death, she gave away $8 million for scholarships. Most of them went to a homeless shelter in New York City. Second example, James Shaw Jr. This was the man who was the hero of the Waffle House shooting last month in Nashville. You may remember he was shot by the gunman. The gunman killed 4 people. He wrestled the gun away from the gunman. And even more important than that, after he had done this, he started a GoFundMe campaign for all these people who've been victims of this tragedy, trying to raise $15,000. He actually raised $241,000 for the victims of this. Third example, James Harrison, a retired 81-year-old railroad employee in Australia. And at the age of 14, he had some kind of a medical problem. He had to have some surgery. He had to have some blood transfusions. And somehow, but not necessarily because of that surgery, Mr. Harrison's blood contained a special antibody that would be useful to mothers and babies who have different blood types. And it's estimated that his blood saved 2 million people in Australia. And it was his blood that was so special. And they had to have the blood. They couldn't just donate it once and then recreate it and everything. And for those of you who are afraid of needles, Mr. Harrison gave blood 1,173 times in his life. He gave blood every 2 weeks for almost 60 years. Kind of amazing story, one man. And of course, if we want another example of how one person can really make a difference, we could turn to Father John Adams. And he doesn't want us to turn to him, but we all know he's not going to actually wrestle the gun out of anybody's hands. He's not going to give blood 1,173 times. He's not going to do the things that maybe he's not even going to give $8 million to some someday. But I think we would all say that what he has done makes his effort no less heroic and no less important. But once again, one man, assisted by a lot of other people. So in closing, I want to emphasize your ability to be that one man or one woman. And you're probably thinking, me? Who, me? I can't give away millions of dollars. I can't give away my blood thousands of times. I can't stop an armed shooter, and I'm not going to give my entire life to helping other people. Who, you know, I'm just an ordinary guy, not me. But I'm going to tell you, no, you can't do what those people did, and you won't do it probably. Be nice if you could. Probably you won't. But somewhere, sometime, it will all be up to you, and it'll be your chance to make that difference. And what I ask is that you get ready. Thank you, Father John. I don't know, it looks like a weapon.